You played a game. Oh yeah, I played a game with. Well, plastic forks is infinitely easier. Hello, Quebec? I don't know. Yeah, playing with plastic forks is infinitely easier than playing with your feet. Now, playing with plastic forks held by your feet. Well. There you go. Next level. I want to give him a good game. I'm going to play standard, even though the standard for Zerg right now at the higher level is to just not let Protoss do whatever they're doing, no matter what it takes. Whether that means proxy hatch or Nidus or like Ling Drop. Like if you watch Dark versus Trap, spoilers by the way, Dark won pretty handedly. Pretty easily, pretty handedly. That works. Yeah, it works. By just getting up in his grill and fucking up his whole plan. There were proxy hatches. There were Nidus. The games he lost were when he kind of let Trap do his thing. If he cannon rushes me, I'm just gonna ban him, by the way. If he just does a shitty cannon rush, bam. 15 bucks? Not nearly enough to protect you from that. Why didn't you wall off? I told you I was Zerk at the beginning of the game. Oh my god. So, in a real game, quote-unquote, I would make a bunch of Zerglings and kill his Nexus. Or at least kill whatever sorry excuse for a wall there was. Another good option is because he's gonna freak out so much and desperately try to get a wall up. I don't. It seems counterproductive anyways. No, don't transfer that many probes. What are you doing? Okay, well, I'm not gonna not attack with 4 Zerglings. Pretty decent probe micro, up until he lost a bunch of probes. Yeah, you can't lose. Like, here's your pro tip, and here's why I don't advertise. 15 bucks and you can play me and I'll tell you what you did wrong. Because a lot of people, even though they don't think it, will have some nerves. And there's no way they're doing what they do on the ladder. Because, like, what am I supposed to do? Not come in and kill 5 probes with 4 lings? Here's my recommendation. Don't let 4 lings kill 5 of your probes. I know, some advanced Grandmaster level tips here. But I highly recommend not losing a bunch of probes to Zerglings you know are coming. Because they killed the other probe on the other side of the map. By the way. It's not like, even if you didn't scout the pool timing, it's not like you had no idea this was a possibility. I don't think he has a Stargate, but I don't know for sure. Having multiple sentries and he wasn't fully mining gas means probably just a prism. Just quick third. Okay. There's an observer.
창조적인 변이가 에너지 광물 대출은 불가능합니다.
Okay, pen might hit the paper, but we making more than songs. Like us in the music, been writing more than wrongs. Lightning in the bottle, stories too long. That's why I'm in the front row, arms locked with the straw. See, I don't know how others get by. Me and my sisters.
Like, you can keep scouting, but if you don't have any units, it doesn't matter.
그건 좀 아닌 것 같은데요. 에너지가 부족합니다. 에너지 없고. 에너지가 부족합니다. 가스는 점검이 필수.
Outplayed.
진화 완료.
Now we see what he decides to do with all this tech.
진화 완료. 그건 아니죠.
I mean, eventually everybody ends up at Immortals and Archons, which are very good units, but
광물이 없는데 자꾸 일만 시킬래요? 진화 완료.
Immortals. And then do we have the second part of the conversation?
광맥이 바닥났습니다. 에너지 업하고. 아! 설마 확정 변이 완료.
Those are not real either.
영이 생성되었습니다. 광물이 부족합니다. 광물이 없는데 자꾸 일만 시킬래요? 광맥이 바닥났습니다. 광물이 부족합니다. 광물 대출은 불가능합니다.
No, I missed the next couple.
광물이 부족합니다.
Got a little greedy. But I can kind of take my pick.
아군이 공격받고 있습니다. 아군이 공격받는데 구경하나요?
Yeah, I'll take the High Templar. That's fine by me.
해군주가 더 필요합니다.
Any of the above.
해군주 어떻게 생긴지 알죠? 인구수가 낮췄습니다. 제발 해군.
Calling me crazy,
I lost my spawning pool, but I kept my hive, and that's another reason to build it there. Looks like we cleared this out as well.
자나깨나 가스 조심. 아군이 공격받는데 가스가 부족합니다. 가스.
This is when the DTs show up, by the way. For those wondering. It's DT time now. I rebuilt the spawning pool, right? Did I not? Maybe not. What?
보급품이 꽉 찼습니다. 진화 완료. 아군이 공격받는데 구경하나요?
Run in.
방문을 다 썼는데 우리 지는 거 아니죠? 보급품이 꽉 찼습니다. 방맥이 바닥났습니다.
Alright. Oh yeah, the multi-command is a little outdated now. So he wanted some advice. First off, if your opponent is Zerg, you wall the bottom of the ramp. Like these are the kind of mistakes that keep you diamond. You can't be like, well, I stayed in the game for 13 minutes against Winter. I had already won the game at like the 8-minute mark with the economic lead. It's just a whole lot of like, well, I could throw it by attacking into a bunch of immortals kind of situation. But first off, you can't lose a bunch of probes to the firstlings. Also, did I say I was Zerg before the first pylon? That's the entire point of telling my race, by the way, is so they don't do weird shit. Like, alright, yeah. Like this. Because for me, I'm like, wait, he doesn't have what is he proxying? And then you see the Nexus, you're like, oh, we just autopiloted. But now, like, what's the point? If you're going to wall down here, well, I guess you have to build the cyber core, but so you're already behind. And then, you know, this is another Diamond League. Like, there are so many Diamond mistakes. A lot of Diamond players, it's very common. Diamond players, and every player, at every league, including above and below, they think about the end of the game and not the beginning. But you can't look at the outside of the house. You can't look at the outside of a house and usually tell if it has a very strong foundation. You can eventually get to Immortal Archon, and that's all well and good, but the process with which you got there might not always be ideal. For example, if you don't wall the low ground, and I happen to be going pool first, well, goodbye Nexus. 100%. Goodbye Nexus. So you just can't expand. Like, these are the type of things, these are the percentage things that keep people in Diamond, because you might be able to play the mid or the later game, but if you can't build your fucking second pylon on time, you built one pylon. Alright, you got one. You built one pylon on time. In the wrong spot, but on time. Past this, fucked. Alright? You're already behind on the second pylon. Supply blocks, so that way you're not going to be able to get any more units. until after it builds. It's going to be late because the cyber core is going to be done before the second pylon is done. You literally have one job at this point, but you're jerking off the probe and trying to micro against a drone as opposed to worrying about your own shit. And now we have a second pylon in the main because your second pylon is so late that you feel obligated to just build one, and now we have to build another pylon, which is an extra pylon that you didn't need to build, on top of the fact you still don't have a wall on the low ground. Your cyber core is finishing your second pylon in a mediocre position. If you had the first pylon at the wall, it wouldn't be in that terrible of a position, but these pylons matter. Alright, there is, of course, the pylon efficiency and necessary infrastructure safety rate. And yours is very, very low. So, already, this is it. Like, this is why you're diamond. We're 2 minutes in the game. This is why you're diamond. You can't just be like, well, but I don't know how to counter Hydras. No, you can't. You can't jump to the middle. You can't jump to the 4th episode and be like, well, why does this guy want to kill this guy? That seems dumb. It's like... Character development. Unfortunately, your development was obviously stunted, but that's okay. So now we're an extra pylon ahead and one wall behind. There are 4 Zerglings coming across. You know that. Because there are 4 Zerglings. Like, that's simple enough. And then apparently you're also stream cheating, so the choice to actually improve by asking me to 1v1 instead of just sending me a replay, you might be like, well, Winter, on the ladder, I don't do this. Well, why did you ask to 1v1 me when I recommended you just send me a replay? And you might be like, well, I just wanted to 1v1 you and see how I could do. Well, that's cute. Then don't pretend you wanted tips. Because I guarantee you, for every diamond player who tries to stream snipe me, or even like low masters, it's hurting you more. One, I usually am not playing a very cheesy style, so it's hurting you more to try to figure out what I'm doing, as opposed to just playing the game and focusing on yourself. Because if we could draw some attention to your supply, you're at 25 out of 54, which right now is also representative of your IQ. You're not even using half of it, and that number is low enough to begin with. Does this seem efficient? And now you're transferring probes. Do you need to transfer probes? It's not like you had enough in the main in the first place. One, there's no reason almost ever to transfer probes, especially if you're under like 20. And two, why? Also, might I draw attention to the fact that 4 Zerglings just killed a probe on the other side of the map. So, maybe we should be worried about that. That's an unfortunate timing for the Zerglings to come in, but it's not like we're staring at it anyways. And this is because the second pylon was fucked, the probe scout was useless, the wall off was non-existent, and the plan was, it was in shambles before it even started. The idea, like what you're trying to do to get out of Diamond, Diamond is a dumpster fire, alright? In order to get to Masters, you have to at least put out the fire, so at least you have trash. But that's better than whatever inferno of disaster this shit is. If you are ever in a scenario where 4 Zerglings, off of a hatch first, that you scouted, are killing upwards of any probes, let alone fucking 7... This is one of those, I would not blame you for just GGing right now. Even in a tournament, okay, there are some Protoss players, like, I bet you Neeb, if he lost that many probes, like 50-50 chance, he'd just tap out. And this is why you're Diamond. No, what? There's no more Lings coming, not that you'd know. And this is the wall off we built? This is a whole lock in the barn door after the horse is already gone situation, and at this rate, the only thing you're doing is making so many enemies that horse's head is going to get chopped off and left in your bed. Because right now, you're both incompetent and ineffective. That's the same thing. That's not what you got the idea. And now here's what happens. Here is why so many diamond games. And if you just remember the last 5 minutes, I bet if you played that game on the ladder, for some reason you played that game on the ladder, almost every player, it's hard not to think of the end result. But you're thinking like, well, Bane drops versus Hydra Ling, and I've got Immortal Archons. You're not remembering how if you simply hadn't lost 7 probes and decided now I'm gonna make 3 Stalkers for no fucking reason, because Stalkers are the iconic unit for people who don't know what to build. If you hadn't done all of that, maybe the plan would have gone along much more smoothly, and you would have never gotten into a situation where banelings were raining from the sky, dropping harder than your ladder points. But now we're here building Stalkers for who fucking knows why, because you've never had a plan from the very beginning. Eventually we'll get back on track as long as there are no red dots on your side of the map for upwards of 90 seconds. But 90 seconds is longer than you've ever lasted attention span-wise or otherwise, so let's not rely on that. I'm more annoyed because he made me 1v1 him. That's why. I said just give me a ladder game. So you've got all the makings here of a nice like Warp Prism, Immortal early game pressure timing. The only thing we're missing is the Warp Prism or the Immortal or the Robo. And 7 probes. Now this is where we finally make a not completely useless move. This is where there's hope, by the way. I'm not frustrated or disappointed for the sake of it. It's because it's so ineffectual. This is actually a good move because you're in a scenario where I don't know how actively you're thinking about it, but you've baited out some Zerglings. I feel pressured to make Zerglings. I don't know exactly what's behind it. The Overlord died. But since you don't have a Robo, you do have these sentries. A quick-ish third is the best move. Because you can't risk moving out because then the sentries might die and you're not going to have a Warp Prism. But this is a good move. Building an Observer first, not a good move. Like, hallucinate a Phoenix, what is an Observer going to show you? Not 2 Oracles, you're not going to sell 2 Oracles. Well, against a Diamond level Zerg, they'll probably see 2 Oracles build 6 Spore Crawlers and never realize they're hallucinations. I, as someone who can do even basic math, realize if you have 5 sentries and I killed 7 probes, there's no way in the 7 hells that those are real Oracles. But it's not a terrible habit to get into, hallucinating Oracles instead of Phoenix, by the way. So, once again, it's such a great example of why Diamond players are Diamond without realizing why they're Diamond. Everybody asks for the counter, and I'm not even saying G-Cobb here, I don't even know if he's saying anything, because I haven't been reading. I've just been too busy looking at the screen, and I don't even want to hear it. Okay, he might be like, yeah, I agree, or like, no, this is why I'm an idiot. But what I mean is, you look at the conclusion and the result and don't look at the way you got there. And if you never look at the reason behind it, and if you never look at how it works, you'll never be able to recreate success. So if you do end up winning a game with Immortals and Archons, even after losing 7 probes, there's like a better than even chance next time you lose 7 probes, you're going to kind of forget what you did. Or not be able to recreate it. But, or even better, not lose 7 probes. Even better. I don't know what the Rebel Bay is for. The Templar Archives is much better. But overall, I can tell. You can see it here. Essentially, everyone below Grandmasters just took 3 shots of tequila. And it's just a matter of how well they hold it. A Masters player can handle it just fine. A Diamond player usually sways around a little bit like White Girl Wasted, and then gets their shit together and realizes maybe they shouldn't be posting that on Instagram. And then below that, it could just be a total disaster they'll learn about the next day. But you recovered. It took a few minutes, but you recovered. So, there's hope. And then hope dies. But if only I had gotten those extra probes. The probe count is good, but the answer is Storm and Archons, not Blink and Warp Prism speed. Warp Prism speed is just going to allow you to fly your Warp Prisms into enemy units faster. I bet at this point in the game, it feels like, it's not terrible. Like, that's not many units. I think it's important to note there are 5 bases, Banelings, +2, etc., etc. So, if you're actually looking at the replay to improve, you need to realize I double expanded a while ago because I knew there was no chance this army would even be close to killing me without Storm or Archon. So it's another situation. Let's take a few more shots, and then eventually we'll sober up and remember Psystorm exists. Or maybe not Warpin' Templar in front of Baneling. Take your pick. This isn't terrible. This is going to be terrible, by the way. I've now killed 49 probes. But, still, you made so many probes. So, for Protoss, especially in Protoss versus Zerg, I looked up your win rate before, because I asked you what matchup you wanted to play. But then you said random, instead of picking one. But the reason your Protoss versus Zerg is like a 24% win rate, I don't think is because you don't know what to do, it's because you struggle so much in getting there, you almost never reach your destination. You need to just learn how to wall off. Don't forget your second pylon. Your second pylon is more important than any move you do right now. Like, so many more games are going to be lost because you forgot your second pylon than you didn't scout the mutas that were coming. Maybe he was nervous. This is why I'm so angry, because he asked for a 1v1. It's like, you're not gonna... I could teach you more from looking at a ladder game than if you 1v1'd me, specifically. I'm not saying you can't improve by playing better players, you can. But, when given options, it would be better for me to look at a ladder game. Because you're going to be a little nervous. Overall, there's hope. I think this really summarizes probably many of your Protoss versus Zergs and Diamond Protoss versus Zergs. You type GG about 3 seconds before Storm finishes. I feel like that summarizes well. I give it a B. I have to give it a minus. The minus because it was just such a travesty. I don't know. Based off that game. But if it wasn't such an early game tragedy, like the first half of the game was a solid C minus. Like, come on. Come on. The second half was a B plus. So if you can bridge that gap somewhere in there, then that, like, you have to make it through the first 5 minutes. the first 5 minutes where Neeb, to quote Neeb, he doesn't really like to listen to music while playing, but sometimes he'll put a song on for the boring early game. Get to the point where the only time you care about listening to music is the boring early game, the first 5 minutes, and then you start playing. Not like, oh my god, I forgot my second pylon. When do you think the last time Neeb... I bet Neeb could get a second pylon if he was passed out from all that tequila, and since he weighs approximately 74 pounds, I don't think it would take that much. So... But I hope you guys enjoyed this breakdown. G-Cobb, thank you for your $15 and your challenge. I hope you learn in the future. If this ends up on YouTube, like and subscribe and tell G-Cobb things in French. And also say, I'm Diamond, but I never play that bad. And continue to be ignorant on the internet because I wouldn't expect any less and or more.